Does the 78-year-old comic exist in CGC 9.8? Yes, it does. So the vintage comics hobby is pretty crazy right now. Books are going for insane prices. There are, I think, 126 copies of The Incredible Hulk number 181, the first appearance, of course, of Wolverine, in CGC 9.8. And that book sells currently for $45,000 to $55,000 in that grade. And there's 126 copies. That is amazing to me. It was nowhere near that just even months ago, much less years ago. So you really need key books, you need classic covers, and you need high grades certified by CGC. And that's where you really have the gold, the real gems of a hobby. So the question is, how far back can you go and still get a CGC 9.8? Now, I'm not saying this is the oldest one because I don't think it is. I think there are a few that are older, but let's take a close look at a Golden Age National Comics 30 in CGC 9.8. Okay, National Comics number 30, cover dated March of 1943. That means it hit the stands probably late January, early February of that year. As I said, it's a CGC 9.8. It has white pages, published by Quality Comics. And it's from the Edgar Church Mile High Collection. If you're a Golden Age collector, you already know about the Edgar Church Mile High Collection. It is, or pedigree, I should say. It's the most famous comic book pedigree in existence. If you don't know the story, basically Edgar Church was a commercial artist living in Denver, Colorado, and he bought pretty much every comic that hit the newsstands, not to read them, but to copy the covers, to improve his artistic skills. Very often when you own a Mile High and you open it to look at the interior pages, you can feel that you are probably the first person to open that comic, because Edgar didn't at all. He copied the covers. So, sometimes with a Golden Age comic, if it hasn't been read, when you open it up, the pages maybe stick a little bit on the edges, and you can tell that you're probably the first person to ever open that comic. Anyway, Edgar was getting a bit older, and he was very ill, and his kids wanted to sell the house, perhaps to pay for his care. And they called up Mile High Comics in Denver, Colorado, and the owner came and looked at the comics and bought them all, 18,000 of them. And today, if you own the Edgar Church copy of any Golden Age book, you're pretty much considered to own the finest copy in existence. There are other pedigrees where individual books will beat the Church copy, but in most cases, the Edgar Church copy is going to be the best copy. And that is certainly the case here. There is no other 9.8 of this book. There is no 9.6. There is no 9.4. There's no 9.2. You go down to 9.0 before you find the next copy of National Comics number 30. It's a great cover of Uncle Sam and his nephew Buddy riding a bomb down onto Germany. Written on it is "Best wishes to Adolf and Co." from Uncle Sam and Buddy. I love that. Uncle Sam burst through in another smash story. The great thing about Golden Age books is that the war permeates them. In the stories, in the covers, in the advertisements, it's all about World War II. And so to me, buying a Golden Age book is taking a trip back in time to when my dad was a young teenager and was probably buying these books. Here's the back cover. It is a Baby Ruth ad, but again, it has a "For victory by war savings bonds and stamps." Everything is about the war with Golden Age books. And you can just see this comic is as nice as the day it hit the stands. Just perfect in every way. Go back to the front cover. I am doing this video because I sold this book today and I'm going to miss it. And so I wanted to have a record of it. I've owned it for 6 years. I sold it for 5 times what I paid for it. It's been a pleasure to own it, and I will miss it. But sometimes you can't turn down a great offer. The cover was drawn by Reed Crandall, who did a lot of great covers and was also well known for Black Hawk, which he did for Quality Comics back in the Golden Age, as well as work that he did in the 1950s for EC Comics. Quality Comics eventually sold their characters to DC, and so we've seen Quality characters like Plastic Man and Uncle Sam appear in DC books as well as others. I remember reading Freedom Fighters in the 1970s with Uncle Sam as the head of the team. So if you're a comic collector, whether you collect moderns, Bronze Age, Copper Age, Silver, whatever, I would encourage you to buy one Golden Age book. There is no other era of comics that are so tied to the days and years that they came out as Golden Age books. And to be honest, they're just a joy to own. It's a piece of history, literally. 78 years old with white pages, but it doesn't have to be a 9/8. It doesn't have to have white pages. It doesn't have to be from a pedigree collection. A 2.0 with creamed off white that isn't slabbed so you can page through it and read the story is a great thing to own, and I highly encourage it. As for me, when I'll be back, maybe tomorrow, I'm expecting Hordak from Tweeterhead. And I think it did ship today, so there's a good chance it'll come tomorrow, and I'll do a review on that. It's the exclusive. And then tomorrow night, I'll be on Rogues Gallery Live with the usual cast of characters, and we're going to talk about Zack Snyder's Justice League. That should be interesting. I think we all have different opinions about it, and I think it'll be fun to duke it out over that movie. Anyway, guys, that's all I got. Have a good night. Talk to you soon.